Y'all know what it is.
Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome back to Eggs. Today's special guest is none other than Ryan Williard, aka DJ Scooter. Ryan shares the same passion for playing music as he does for creating it. At the age of 14, he began teaching himself the art of music production and has gone on to incredible heights. In 2005, he joined the most prestigious DJ remix site on the web, CrooklynClan.net. He made serious waves in the industry in that time, becoming one of the top-selling featured remix artists on the site before joining Direct Music Service in 2015. His remixes are played all over the US and world by the most well-known DJs on the planet, including Little John, Diplo, Chainsmokers, and Dylan Francis, to name a few. Here to talk about perfecting your craft, the art of hard work, the life and times of a world-class DJ, and so much more. Please welcome to the show, Ryan Williard. How's it going, man?
Welcome, man. I forgot about some of that stuff.
Well, the only problem is now it's on you to live up to it. So, so feel free to.
You should have just said I'm nobody that you found off the street. So you set the bar real low.
Yeah. I've been a fan of your work since the Crooklyn Clan days. Like I remember buying a few of your remixes off of there. So, we go back. You just don't know it.
Yeah, it was, man, that was a different, it feels like yesterday, but also 25 years ago too, at the same time. It was a good era of music. That's for sure.
Now remind me, they sold it per track back then. Was it a fluctuating price or was it a fixed price per track? Because I remember I'd go to that site with like $20 and say, that's my budget for the weekend. And you know,
they did it. The price was set, and then they did change how much it cost over time. And I want to say it became cheaper, not more expensive. I remember the beginning was like $2.99 to $3.99 a track, which, in all honesty, looking back, when as far as there wasn't a lot out there, and the people that were on that website at that time have gone on to do, wonderful things in the DJ community and beyond. And some legends that have passed away or no longer with us, unfortunately. So when I think back to all the people that are on that website and what everybody's up to now, or the accomplishments, it makes me proud for sure. So,
yeah, just to be a part of it has to be incredible.
Yeah,
I remember back then, I really had to get real picky with the edits that I would download because you're paying $3-4 a track. It matters versus, having the record pools where you can just download everything and not pay per track. It changes things, I think. So,
yep.
So let's maybe then, before we, now we've talked a little bit of old history, but I think for people who aren't in the DJ world, maybe it makes sense to sort of start at the beginning. I mean, as we said in the intro, you started learning music production quite young, but do you mind taking us a little bit through sort of, what drew you to the music business in the first place and sort of a little bit about your progression?
Yeah. So when I was in middle school, I would say is when I have the first recollection of kind of dabbling in music, and I say dabbling because it was literally like not much. I always loved music for sure, and my household was very diverse as far as my parents were concerned. I remember distinctly like memories of them dancing to the Electric Slide in the living room.
Nice.
Like Friends in Low Places, like that was on the radio. There was a lot of like 90s country music and late 80s music. And, my parents have, and had records in the basement, like Stevie Wonder. And, their musical tastes were diverse enough that it gave me a good rounded, like a good foundation of a rounded sense of, what I liked. And that wasn't pigeonholed from the beginning. So I feel like I owe, a lot to them just from having an open mind. And then there's videotape of me and like my aunts, like wedding when I was like 5, dancing to Michael Jackson, like and moonwalking, like as best I could at 5. And that sort of started, I think Michael Jackson kind of kicked everything off, because I remember watching like VHS tapes and like rewinding it and trying to figure out how he did certain dance moves. So I think dance kicked it off, and like, you know, I was doing that when I was really, really young. And then in middle school, you know, everyone had those Walkman back then, you know, or 3, 4, and 5 CD changers were like brand new kind of. CD burners were brand new for the most part. And only like one kid at my school had a CD burner, and he used to charge kids like $15. And you put a list, he'd go home and download it and like come back within a week with like a burned CD. But like that kid was hustling because he was the only CD burner. Yeah.
He would get it off of Napster and burn it to CD for you.
Yeah. But we didn't have, you know, CD burners back then were like $600-$700. I think they were like pretty pricey, and none of us, you know, like kids don't, I mean, even when you were working, that's a lot. Like, you know, because it was a new technology, like nobody even knew really how it worked, like
how to those early days of CD burning too. Like it wasn't that easy. Like
no, and you didn't have YouTube to go like look it up and figure it out. So like to get it to get the formats correct, you know, to get it on a CD and the software, like that was all foreign language. Like just to have somebody say, "Here's $15," and a week get a physical CD with like the track list and the label on it. Like we were like, that's well worth it. You know what I mean?
And when you're paying $20 for a CD from like No Doubt or Sublime or whatever, you're paying $20 for that. And maybe there's only one track on there that you liked at the time, or, you know, whatever.
Because you're
a
like
custom one
$4.99 for a CD single.
Yeah.
It was well worth it, you know? So that era is kind of like what my middle school, like teeth were cut in. And I remember going to like birthday parties for my classmates, and they would put like Christina Aguilera in the CD changer, and like the first Jay-Z CD, like Hard Knock Life, and you know, it'd be like Limp Bizkit or whatever the heck was out then. And then like nobody would pay attention to the music, and I would remember like this, my ear would be catching the same songs coming on, you know, because it had already gone around all the songs, and like I started like noticing that, and I was like, that's annoying, you know. And I remember saying to myself like, oh, no one's paying attention. So I'd go over and like change out the CDs, and then it kind of got me like itching to like try to figure out how to like DJ birthday parties, like those same parties, but I wanted to like figure out how to actually get paid for that. So I started charging like $50 for my classmates to do like their 14th, 15th birthday parties.
Can we
with 2 Discmen?
I was just going to get that. Can we break down the system? Because
2 Discmen and a Radio Shack mixer.
Yeah.
And I like, you know, had to get all the adapters, and like, you know, you're sitting there like hitting play and someone would skip. Like it was so ghetto at the time. Like, you know what I mean? But I just enjoyed doing it. And then I think my parents got me, well, I bought one turntable myself. It was a Newmark turntable too. It was belt driven, and it was god awful. Like you'd hit play and it'd be like, like take forever to start. It wasn't even like direct drive. And I messed on that for a while and like was taking my parents' records. And then they got me a Gemini Disco Mix, I think was the name of the system. And it literally came in a box. And I still have a photo of it somewhere because I saved the box for a lot of years just because I thought it was ironic. And it had like 2 CD players and a mixer like built in to a very heavy wood frame. And it was just a 2-channel mixer. And it had the pitch control, which is mind-blowing to me because you could speed things up and slow them down, but it didn't have master pitch.
Okay.
So it was just like you had +8, -8, and that's all you had, but there's no pitch correction. So that like set things off for me because I was like, oh, now it's on. You know, I had a friend of mine from youth group that was in a band, and I used to pay him to rent out speakers to do school dances then and bigger events. And I started doing more and more school dances. By the time I was like junior year in high school, I was like pretty much doing a lot of successful dances. And then by the time I graduated and into my first year or 2 of college, I was doing pretty much almost every school district, like 9 or 10 school districts in the area consistently like 2 or 3 events a year for them. And then I started doing bars like when I was like 18 or 19. And I did this like crappy.
Was it legally, or was it you're okay because you're an employee kind of thing? How did that work at 18 going into bars?
Well, I couldn't drink, that's for sure. But it was like a local sports bar that where I grew up was Hershey, Pennsylvania. So it was like big hockey town. There's a AHL hockey team there called the Hershey Bears. And like I played hockey, my whole life. So like it was a good energy because it was like the bar that I remember being around in town. It was like local, like 10 minutes from my house. Like I started there doing like band breaks.
Nice.
And I was doing another place in town that was just like a restaurant that turned into it, had a DJ at night. Like they take the ketchup and mustard and the salt and pepper off the tables and push them together and like put a tablecloth on it. Sometimes not even a tablecloth. It was just like, okay, you start at 10. Like, hold on, that table is still, like, you gotta wait. So yeah, that was like my roots. Yeah, man. And it, like even like nowadays, like when you get asked to do certain venues, like a lot of places, even that I get flown out to, some places operate just like that. Like during the day, they're a full service, bar. And then at night it's like, boom, like they like revamp the room. Like, it's cool. Like it's a good vibe that way. There's a place out in Cleveland, Ohio called Barley House that I do. And that's kind of how they do. It's like a big ass sports bar, but at night it turns into like a nightclub. So I kind of like those vibes. You know what I mean? It's like, doesn't make you feel like you're in some like bougie ass bottle spot all the time.
Well, and you can actually get a little more creative with your set too, because you can kind of start your night different every night. Versus coming in and it's a hip hop club. You're playing hip hop all night. You can actually kind of get creative. When did you get started doing remixes and edits? 2005 was Crooklyn Clan time, but were you doing it before then? How'd you get your foot in the door with that?
So it was probably around the same time that I got that Newmark turntable and the disco mix set up. It's probably around that time. I was 16 years old. I wish I had an exact date on that, but there was a forum on the internet. You have to get on AIM and all that stuff, but on AOL. But there's a forum. It used to be called JMix Forum, and sadly, the guy who started the forum was a DJ, actually from the Midwest, and he actually just recently passed away. Sadly, he was like, 30s. It was crazy. He had sadly some cancer. I think he ended up passing away from, but he had a forum online, and there's some guys that I talk to now, like Joshua Carl was on there. He's from Boston. And it's a few different guys like that. And I just started posting things I would make on the computer onto that forum for free. Like it was just like, hey, I came up with this idea. Like I was trying to emulate like Funky Mix and Ultimix stuff back then. Yeah. I was just like, because that's really all I knew. Like as far as DJ edits, like I can't tell you, my mind was blown. I'd listen to the local radio station and be like, where are they getting this version of this song? Like I was just like so mind blown by this. And then I started like trying to make my own versions, like putting samples and stuff. The thing was, I had a Windows 95 computer that my parents owned it. It wasn't mine. And every Windows machine back then came with this program for free called Windows Wave Editor. It wasn't even multi-track. It was just
I was going to ask you what DAW you were using back then because Ableton wasn't around.
No, that was like a duh, not a DAW.
Yeah. And like it was, all you could do was copy and mix paste over things. So basically all you could do is overlay things on each other. Like, and it required you to basically like formulate whatever like loop or sample or acapella or anything you wanted to do. And then like put your cursor where you wanted to put it and then paste it, listen to it. And if it didn't sound right or it bled off, you have to hit undo and then like fix the other track enough to where you think the error was made and then like recopy it, repaste it. It was so much like insanity that nobody has to deal with anymore. But
yeah,
I remember making
the audio version of MS Paint.
Yes. Oh,
yeah, no, it's funny because what I'm learning from this conversation so far, which I think is super interesting, is that kids these days, I mean, I know that makes me sound super old, but kids these days don't know how good they got it. Because holy crap, I mean, just like to describe your forum, to go onto it, you had to go onto America Now, AIM, you had to get into one of these little subgroups. Like, I mean, stuff was hard to find back then. You couldn't just Google, whatever it is you're looking for. So it's pretty funny hearing all this sort of old tech and these hacks, because this is how people like, our age, contemporaries, sort of found our way.
Yeah. There wasn't the readily available, like you can almost find like anything tool wise you need on the internet now. Like if you don't know how to do something, you can YouTube it. Like there's somebody has posted a how to, even though it might not be the best, it'll get you on your way. You know what I mean? Like you can sound design, there's sound design tutorials now. Like that is so lit. That's like at that time that would have been like somebody giving me like a way to get to Saturn when I'm living in the earth. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was just inconceivable to me to like, what do you mean you can make your own sounds? Like that concept didn't even like exist in my mind. I didn't even know that was possible like back then. So it just goes to show you like how primitive things were back then. And that was like the dawn of the internet. So like, yes, there was the internet, but if I wanted an instrumental of something, like it wasn't on the internet. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was,
you had to go buy the record, flip it over, play the backside and record it,
and figure out how to get it into the computer too. That wasn't known. Like that wasn't like
time manipulation. I mean, you couldn't speed up a track or slow it down. So you probably, if you were making a mashup or an edit of something, you had to pitch it up on your record player to get it to line up with the acapella or vice versa. So a lot harder.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, and it's true. I mean, because, as you're talking about the dawn of the internet and stuff, I remember having to learn HTML so that I could have a presence on the web. Like if you wanted to be on the internet, you had to do that. Now you've got things like Squarespace and, other like, consumer level, web developing platforms where you can have a website and you don't have to know anything anymore. But back then it was totally Wild West. So as it pertains to, audio editing or graphic design or web development, whatever, there's this period of time in there, 5-10 years where yes, there was such a thing as the internet, but A, we barely had access, and B, there was like nothing on there you could do. Like you had to make everything yourself. Yeah.
And when I think about that, how many hours I took just wasted, but not wasted because I was figuring it out. You know what I mean? Like it makes me appreciate things a lot more, but it also like makes me kind of sad that people don't understand like the struggle that we went through. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Like, I didn't have to carry records around back in the day. This is a new acquisition. I started with CDs, so I didn't have the struggle of carrying crates. And I actually wish I would have had that struggle and had, that experience. Cause I think it would be, I'd be that much further along, and that, it's something I wish I would have had to experience and never did. So if you had
started, go ahead. I started when, that was just about to start being phased out. Like I caught the back a couple of years of having to carry your crates. And thank God I got an internship at a radio station as soon as I got out of high school. And I got hired to do a morning show. So I was going to community college right down the street from the radio station. So I'd go to class. I'd go to the radio station, be on air 6 to 10. Then I'd go right to class, come home, do my homework, and do it all over again 5 days a week. Then I'd go DJ on the weekends. I was working at a cell phone store at one point. I sold cell phones for like a year and a half. I worked at Hollister as a manager for 2 years, like from the time I was like 16 to 19. I flipped burgers at Hershey Park as one of my fourth jobs in that time, like when I was like 16, 17, 18. But the radio station, like they had vinyl getting shipped there. So I was able to like source some stuff from the radio station because, I was associated with the station and like nobody at the station was using it. It was like me and one other guy there that actually gave a shit about that, but they would just send it, So I was able to like start my like collection for playing out with that. It still sucked though. Yeah. I still have a lot of those records at my parents' house. in the basement, or I put them up in storage in the attic, like sealed and stuff. But that was not fun. I'll tell you that. But it made me like forced you to, there was no screen. So it forced you to learn how to beat mix like with your ear, that was, I think that's the best way to learn.
Well, 100%
for all the new DJs.
Yeah. The sync button isn't the way to go. I think you really like transitioning from DJ to DJ. You have to be able to beat mix. You have to be able to do that by ear, or else you're going to train wreck on your first song. So let's talk about radio. You got your foot in the door with an internship right out of high school. What station was it, and how you're still working? Is it Q102 now? Is that who you're with?
Yeah, and that's Philly. Yeah, Q102 is Philly, and it's like it's like pop and rhythmic mix, because we do play a lot of urban records too. So it's not exclusively pop music, which I like, and we have a lot of freedom to spread our wings on the mix show. So if there's like a new record that's popping on TikTok, like I'm playing it. You know what I mean? Which is amazing, because I know a lot of guys don't have that freedom. We have a program director at Q in Philly that has been around the business for a while, and he's youngish and like gets it. You know what I mean? Like some of the guys at some of the other stations, unfortunately, have their hands tied for various reasons. So I'm blessed that way. But the station in Harrisburg, PA, where I was at, was Hot 92 at the time. It's now Hot 106.7 because they took off one of their other stations and changed it to that frequency. And it went from Hot 92 to Hot 93.5 to Hot 106.7 now. But it was a rhythmic station as well, like kind of played a lot of pop, but all the urban records too. Because I remember like 2000, that would have been like 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, that time. There was a lot of urban music that was like, like Nelly was pretty mainstream back then, Paula Deanda, like JoJo. We played a lot of those records. Bow Wow.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pop, hip hop collabs that were radio friendly. So we were playing that stuff. But yeah, that was crazy because I didn't know jack squat about radio. And I was like doing their street team for like 2 months. And at one event, one of the on-air talents was like, you should come in the morning, like figure this out, like see what it's all about. I'm like, okay, what time do I gotta get there? He's like 4:30. I'm like, in the morning?
That's when I'm going to bed. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I usually stay out till 4:30. Like, so I was like, all right. And it was literally like right down the street from the college. Like I'd say 5 minutes, not even, maybe from parking lot to parking lot, maybe 8 with traffic. So I was like, all right, like I'll try it. And I go in and I'd sit there and watch, and they would eventually they'd ask me a question as intern Ryan, and I'd answer it. And it was like me, a chick, and my co-host, who was like super flamboyantly gay. So it was like a really good dynamic because like the weather girl was the chick, and she wouldn't be there all the time. But then he just asked me to they're like, we want to put you on every day. So it was like me being like, red-blooded white boy, like straight American guy, and then this flamboyantly gay guy who had the other side of everything. And he'd be like, political stuff would come on, or Tyra Banks or whoever, Jessica Simpson, and he'd be like, oh, she's ugly or whatever. I'm like, no, man, she's hot, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was like, it was a good dynamic. So I did that for a couple of years. And then my co-host got a job in Vegas. So they dissolved the show, not by any, negative reason. But the kid they hired from Buffalo, New York, is actually my best friend now. He came down and he's a DJ as well. So we clicked, but I still worked for that station for a lot of years until, I was still doing mix show for them until a year ago. And then corporate dissolved pretty much a lot of their stations right before COVID hit, the mix show stuff. It was just a change in theory with the company. So
that's
yeah.
Seattle market did the same thing. I've worked, I had a little time on radio with Power 93.3 when Cube switched from hip hop to more of a pop station for a little while. I was in that station that popped up for about 2 years and then they went back to Cube. But from what I've heard, talking just to guys that are still there, they've gone from, having Kiss FM having a mixed show to not doing it at all. And then Cube 93 only does it on the weekends now, where they used to do it every day. So it's sad to see it go. It's nice to have.
And sadly with COVID too, man, there's so many guys that are like veterans that I know that have been doing radio a long time and are like really dope DJs that because of COVID, like they were let go. Like, this year, like, I'm on a Zoom call every Tuesday with a lot of radio guys. And just getting the state of the world it's been good to like touch base with guys, just to stay sane. Cause I pretty much am in the house all day, every day, barely go out, and cause I'm, just making music and doing mix show stuff. So it's been good to like get a view of the rest of the country. But it's also been sad because a lot of guys lost their job because companies have been like pinching pennies this year because they're losing so much ad revenue. So
yeah, I was on a big Zoom call with a bunch of DJs from Seattle over Christmas. Normally we have a get together and we go to a bar and hang out and talk about, just life. And since we couldn't do it this year, we did a Zoom call and, you probably know DJ Faze and Phrase from DMS, him. We were all in that call and it's interesting to hear everyone's story of how COVID did them over this last year. And I don't know what it's like in Philly, but in Seattle, everything's still locked down. There's nothing. Yeah. So
no, we're locked down.
Have you done any gigs at all this year or how's your situation been?
Yeah. So me and my wife just bought a house, in very almost on the line of Delaware and Pennsylvania, like right before COVID. We got in like a month and a half before COVID hit, which is so lucky because, I know people that are trying to buy houses now that are like crying because there's just so little houses out there and the market is inflated like insane. And it was hard for us then because every house that you saw, you had like to make a decision within like 48 hours or less. Like just people were buying houses like crazy back then. Delaware actually was a little bit more lenient, and luckily like in the summer times I do a lot of beach venues. So I was able to get some spotty beach work in like down at open air spots all summer, in Delaware and do some of that. But other than that, I mean, I did 2 weddings and that was like fall and they were outside. And other than that, no, I mean, I did some stuff for Amazon, like virtually and like a few virtual gigs, and that's been about it. Philadelphia is like locked down still hard. So
yeah. I had very similar. I was on track to have one of my best summers for weddings, and my weddings went from amazing to down to 2, and both of them were just ceremonies. They didn't do any dancing. So it kind of went from a great summer to nothing. And I'm actually starting to have people for next summer starting to cancel because they don't see how it's going to work. Which is
already
frustrating as well. Yeah. I've had 2 of them
reschedules.
Yeah. I've had 2 of them from next summer cancel already. So it's really sad, but
yeah, well, maybe that's a good place to jump in then and maybe talk about what you think the future of entertainment might look like. You mentioned that you've been on these Zoom calls with these radio guys. I know Mike is talking to a lot of, regional DJs up there in Washington, but I wonder do you have any kind of pulse on what you think this year, maybe this year, but maybe long-term, what the implications of COVID and just everything else are going to have on live performance?
That's rough.
Yeah.
My wife's in healthcare, so I get a very realistic view of how things are, fortunately, because of her line of work and a lot of people that she knows are bridesmaids of hers or whatever, also nurses. And there 2 of them in New York, she has other nurses at major hospitals across the country that she knows. So I get like a real life view of how that's going. And I feel like that will be dictate the rest of the country. I mean, I know that vaccines are now rolling out. I feel like this summer will be looser than last summer for sure. Only because I think some of these governors are realizing that people are beyond their breaking point. And if they don't give some sort of other option besides just being locked down, that their local economies, there'll be nothing left. And we're almost, I mean, we've been at that point, but I mean, it's at a point where I'm talking about, like, I know so many people personally that have moved out of New York City, like, and don't plan on coming back. They're buying houses in other states. Like, I know a bunch of couples and professionals in the industry that have, I know a guy that is buying a house in North Carolina from New York City this week. Like, they realize, like, okay, I don't see New York coming back or whatever. Like, and that's, if you live in certain areas, like, I think looks more bleak for you than others. So I feel like some areas will be more open this summer. That's for sure. And I think it's going to be more of these places will be opened, and it's up to you to make a personal decision, is what I think the next stage of this looks like, based on your personal comfort level. And, if you have a vaccine, and I think some places will probably eventually require you to have a vaccine. Like, I think that's extreme, like, for some venues, but I know people in some parts of the country where, like in Florida right now, where they're open. Like,
it's the Wild West.
They're just open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, my friend did DJ the college football final the other day. Like, two of my friends that are down there in Florida, and like, they had 15,000 people at that game or something. Like, it's going to be very specific based on where you live.
Yeah.
But I think this summer will be more, because what I also think is venue places kind of like had forced, like, with no notice to adapt, like, from March, April, May, and weren't ready for it, like, come summer to take advantage of the outdoor. But now that they know what that looks like, I think they're going to be a whole lot more ready once the weather breaks to take full advantage of the income potential for that 5 months. And I'm talking about East Coast, probably.
Yeah.
Because, like, West Coast is pretty much warm all the time for the most part. Not where you guys are, but yeah, I think that's where we're going to be. I mean, it's going to be a touch and go situation, though. But
there's a couple venues in Seattle that I was talking with the managers, and they feel it's going to be midsummer before they can do anything, and they've been locked down for the whole time. So it's really quite frustrating. One of them only has 2 years left on their lease. So before this started, they had 3 years of good income coming in, and they cut their time in half, and it's really kind of frustrating. So
yeah, I'm lucky to have some outdoor and beach town spots that are like nightclubs, but they're outside, because without that, I mean, just be collecting unemployment like everybody else. Like, that's the reality of it. It's just,
well, let's get on a lighter note. It sucks, but it is what it is. So,
gotta keep it real.
Let's talk about DMS. What was it like jumping on with those guys? I saw a photo on your Instagram with like the last gathering that you guys did in Vegas, and just the level of talent that's in that picture alone is incredible. You got Diggs, you got Audio One, you got all those different guys that came together in Vegas, and you kick it with them all, usually on an annual basis. But for those of you that don't know what DMS is, it stands for Direct Music Service, and it's a record pool that is one of my favorite record pools. I've been a member for quite a long time, and that's how I know Scooter is because of his edits there. And can you talk about DMS and the crew and what it's like working for them? Yeah.
So when the relationship with Crooklyn Clan kind of dissolved. It was basically, there was a lot of us that kind of started there, like, and cut our teeth with that website. And then, again, there was some changes to like the money structure for the editors that almost everybody disagreed with. And a lot of us that were, the higher ranking members or charters or whatever you want to call it at that time kind of like made our voices known. And it just was something that didn't like the vision long term either, the way where it was headed. And so I remember talking to Danny Diggs at the time, and we both were like, yeah, like, we should look at some other options here. And Kevin Scott has always been somebody who owns Direct Music Service with War and Peace. Kevin has been best friends with like DJ Am for many years. And he's just always been a guy that has been very kind of like big brother-ish to me, and Danny too. He would we would link up in Vegas or like the DMS get-togethers like that were going on, and he invited me to, even when I wasn't really working for the company, and he just always was like a good, steady person to bounce stuff off of. So when this stuff with Crooklyn was, dissolving, like he was like pretty much like, man, like if that doesn't work out, like, I got you, like, don't worry, which was cool because like that was big of him just to like be like, basically like, I'll hire you like on site if, you ever decide to leave that situation, which was cool. And that's basically what happened. It just seemed too easy to do that. I didn't feel pressured, and like the pay structure was a lot better, like, and stable on from them. And they weren't like particular about, they kind of understand that like being creative doesn't really have like the same linear thinking as like stamping license plates, or like when ideas hit you, they just come. And sometimes I do 10 edits a week and other times I do one, and they get that. So they were just cool about it, and that's how it came to be. And it's worked out great. I mean, Kevin and Warren are both like super stand-up guys, and I'm really big on vibes, and like I like to feel people's energy out like when I meet them. And if something doesn't feel right, it kind of scares me away more often than not. I just get like an energy being around people. Like, I'm not talking like, I don't want to be all like physiological, like, the spirits roaming through the room. I just mean like, if I feel like they're cool people, like that makes me more inclined to work with someone. So yeah, they were always really cool. So that's how that came to be. And it's been great. So
I saw Kevin Scott a long time ago at Trinity Nightclub in Seattle, and it was cool to watch him throw down. He uses the turntables old school way, disco style, which was fun to see. But yeah, I've huge fan of the site, and I love everyone that makes edits for him. So thanks for doing that. So
he's like one of the cleanest mixers too, like from a beat matching standpoint. Like one of the cleanest DJs I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I wish I could have seen him, and more before that, and actually, like seeing that. I came across DJ AM on the latter half of his life. I never got a chance to see him, and I wish I would have known about AM and Kevin Scott and all these guys 10 years earlier, so I could have followed their career. But
yeah, same here. I was like late to that.
Yeah.
Late to the train, like as far as being able to see AM live. Like he was originally from Philly, which is crazy. Like, when I found that out, like at the time I was like, how did I not know who this dude was? Like when he was living here,
Yeah.
I was like, kind of like, again, like no internet. So, it's like, unless someone told me about it on AIM, like I was like, what? Like I didn't, you know what I mean? And I wasn't hanging out like in the city of Philly at the time, which basically is what you had to do back then to find that stuff out. It had to be like word of mouth. There was no, Facebook event invites and shit like that. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So I was wondering, do you mind talking about some of these? As we alluded to at the beginning of the show, there's a number of different musicians or DJs who have picked up different remixes and things like that you've done and then gone on to use them. I think for people who don't necessarily have any insight into the music business or how this sort of DJ game works, do you mind sort of explaining like how something like that comes to fruition? I know you had a big hit with the reggae remix of Rihanna's song. And, and there are a couple others along the way. And I don't know if people really understand how it goes from editor to, musician to label to radio or whatever. And I wonder if you'd maybe talk about that process a little bit.
Yeah. So each one of those processes is a little different. They all can basically coincide the same way. Nowadays, if you're talking about, like, let's say I do an edit and it only goes up on direct music service. That pretty much would be the only way that you get that file. Unless, like I have a little secret stash, like Dropbox for some of the homies, like that I've had for like many years. And I've been fortunate enough to, meet some of these like bigger DJs through work I've done. Like they picked them up from somewhere else, or a friend of theirs has like played it, and my name gets known, and I run into him somewhere, or one of those other guys are like, yo, like he's cool, or whatever. I mean, I've just been passed like emails and cell phone numbers like over the years. It's been very organic. Like recently in Zoom world, like I've gotten a chance to jump on a lot of the bigger guys, like and that's been set up through labels, but that's just because like the labels knew me from putting out remixes on the internet, so now like the way it would work for a record label for me to do an original remix is like I talk to a label representative who's in charge of talking to DJs. Is like that's kind of like their job MO, is to make sure that the DJs on radio stations have the records that need to get played. And so you develop relationships like that just from talking to the same people year after year from radio stations. They know us and we know them, and some of them lose their job and go work for other record companies, but in the same position. So I know a lot of guys like that too. Like some of these guys have worked for like 3 different record companies, but it's just like the industry, as you go up the Christmas tree of, the ladder and power in a record company, just like any company, like it gets smaller and smaller as far as the amount of people that are associated with it. Like, it's kind of like, oh yeah, like I know Fred and like he used to work here. So that helps in a lot of ways because it works the same way with DJs. Like,
yeah, it really is.
If Diplo's played one of my things and it ends up being tracked on his Sirius radio show, with my name on it, like there's so many like fans that will hunt out that track and be like, whoa, like I need to, where can I download that version? Like it's track listed on Diplo's thing or whatever it is, like Lil Jon or whoever it is. And so that helps you like also break into other avenues. Like I had like 3 million plays on my SoundCloud a couple years ago.
I was going to ask you about that. How did that feel when you lost that?
It still hurts. It still hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts my soul because those metrics are like not tangible. But when you come from like, again, like where I started to like kind of having to like figure out the internet all these years, and like, thank God I taught myself how to use Photoshop like years and years ago. I taught myself how to make music. Like before I was going to go into music, I was really into art, so I can draw and make flyers and craft things with my hands. Like I'm blessed that way. A lot of people aren't, but those new metrics, like you're like trying to make it work in the new, internet world. And when those things go away, you're like, oh,
when you've been on a platform for 10 years and they all of a sudden pull your account because of copyright stuff. And the same thing happened to me. I had all my edits on SoundCloud where you could download them and get them because I wasn't affiliated with the record pool. So I just put them on SoundCloud, and there were a few of them, like, even though they're not my tracks and they're, like the mashup isn't charting as much as the original I did one, like it was Twerking in the Rain by Todrick Hall. And that one got like 10, 15,000 plays. And even though it's not me per se, that the reason why there's 10, 15,000 plays, that those 10, 15,000 plays were on my account, and it just felt cool, and having 3 million, I can't even imagine them just saying, hey, third violation, there goes your account. And then
it wasn't even warning. It was just like all of a sudden I saw my Gmail and I was like, what? Like, and it was all at once. It was like boom, boom, boom. Like it just was gone. And like one of the ones, like the Miley Cyrus thing I did, the remix had man, I think that had like 400,000 or 500,000 alone. There was like a huge chunk of that. And so I was like, F SoundCloud, like for all these, like I was off SoundCloud for years. And now it seems like companies are kind of like, some of them are starting to understand, especially with COVID, like Twitch, and that there's something to be said for value in people like posting content. Now, I'm not monetizing tracks on there, like unless they would be original, but I like bit the bullet and was like, F it. Like I'm going to start putting long mixes up there, because there's a lot of people that aren't DJs that ask me all the time, like, where can I get that? And I would be like, well, you can't, and I felt terrible telling people, because I felt like I was like neglecting so many people that aren't in the industry, like even like my wedding clients and, private event people, or anyone that like finds me on the internet, like through my music. Like if they go to try to hear me DJ, or like want to hear what I sound like full set or half a set or whatever, like they can't. So I was like, I'm going to try SoundCloud.
The only option is Mixcloud, and Mixcloud is still up and coming. Most people don't even know about it, but you have to have there's a commercial that's played at the beginning, and there's no way to download the track. So whenever I upload something,
you can't scrub through it too. Am I wrong? Last time I did that,
you can't go backwards for some reason, which is stupid.
Yeah.
But
so, I mean, I'm on there too. I haven't put anything on there in a long, many years. But now, like, I find myself uploading my radio shows after they air, and like I just checked my stats honestly like this week, and I was shocked because like when you have like the certain version, you can see like the insights, like where the plays come from, and I was like blown away. I was like, holy shit, like people are listening to me in Australia, like thousands of people a week, and I was like, this is insane. Like, I didn't expect that, but again, it's the internet, and so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. But I was just like, SoundCloud pissed me off real bad when they did that. Yeah. So I was so against giving them a dime of my money again, even though I didn't really like, like I get what they were doing, like, but it was just the way that they did. I would have preferred they just said, okay, like we're scrubbing these songs, but we're not going to remove your play count, because like those stats are just, you can't ever get those back. It's just like,
and it's a little bit of credibility, right? I mean, if somebody comes to your site or lands there because they found a track and they find out you have 25 plays, they go, okay, well, maybe this guy's kind of nobody. But if you got 3 million plays, you go, okay, well, maybe there's something here, So even if it's just kind of that mental game, I think it's still important to have those kind of metrics.
Yeah. And, I mean, I'm sure you guys know too, like so much of the internet now, like there's people fake it till they make it, like companies are purchasing plays for songs like on some new artists, or
they do that with New York Times bestsellers. Someone will put a book out, and then their company will buy a couple thousand copies.
And record labels do that too. Don't let them tell you they don't. Like they purchase so many copies of a song.
Is it Post Malone that supposedly his parents bought X amount of iTunes downloads to get him charting initially?
Yeah, that's the rap I heard too. I don't know if it's true or not, but
I'm
that's
like
the rumor on the street.
Major Post Malone fan, and I think he's got like the warmest, like cool, fun energy. So I believe that his parents would do that, like after seeing them in some interviews and stuff. But I mean, like my parents would do the same thing if they had the money to do that. Like, I'm like, Mom, it's my first track. Like they'd be like, okay, I'll buy some. Like, I'm not, it's okay with like, it's your family. There's nothing illegal about that. I'm talking like we bought 500,000 copies of this single from your own record label. Like it's a little,
if it worked, it worked. I mean, he's not hurting right now. So.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. He has a house here in Salt Lake, and so there's the part of town that he lives in. You can go down, and you'll every now and then see some fancy car cruising around or whatever, and and all the kids go nuts and everything because they see him. He also has a ranch just north of Salt Lake here, and I guess shops at this complex that's about a mile from my house. And so, the kids just go nuts because, he stands out like a sore thumb with all the face tattoos and stuff here in a pretty conservative neighborhood.
I've seen him video of him being he seems real cool. Does he chill in person? Does he talk to people? Or is he
I've not had the opportunity to meet him, but I haven't heard anything bad about him. I know that when he played through here, to perform, I think he sold out in just minutes. And, I think he's very well liked here. So, I don't know him personally or anything, but
I didn't know you were in Salt Lake. I actually have 2 weddings out that way this summer.
Oh, really?
Nice. Well,
Park City?
When you get out here, connect. Yeah.
One's at a golf course, and the other one is I actually just booked it yesterday. It's at a hotel. So
nice. Yeah, when you come out, look us up. Let's get together, grab a drink or something. Hopefully, we're in some version of post-COVID where we're allowed to have a cocktail here and there.
Post-COVID with Post Malone.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, shout out to that guy. If we can get him to come show, that'll make the party great. So cool. I did want to ask you one more thing. I just kind of wanted to ask you, we started talking about digital music and some of that. We had a note in here that you had one of your remixes go viral because it showed up on Instagram with Shaq and Dylan Francis and some other folks. And I wondered if you would talk about just sort of the role of this kind of stuff. I mean, we've discussed a lot of sort of, I guess, the way that you got into music and sort of the evolution of the way people would get your music. But, it feels like this stuff, the TikToks and the Instagrams of the world are sort of the next precipice for music. And so I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about how, you expect your music to move or grow through platforms like that. And if you think those factor into your future.
Well, and actually you brought up in conversation earlier that you find music on TikTok, and I've never thought of trying to use TikTok to source music before, but it seems
like TikTok is where you get your hits nowadays.
Yeah, I still don't even know how to guilty as charged. I still don't know how to fully use TikTok. I don't even have the app. It's not my steez. I'm still trying to get my username on there because some 11-year-old girl hasn't posted in 3 years. So I'm desperately trying to not be DJ Scooter 7 and just get my actual username. But I think for me personally, again, the younger generation, I've noticed that is a major consumption point for them. And what is going to happen in the foreseeable future is, that generation of kids, which I would call them to associate them with a group demographic would be the ones that used to Ariana Grande and the Justin Bieber, that crowd. They're a little older now, but those newer generation of consumers are going to, that's where they get their music. So I think there needs to be a lot of attention paid to that because as silly as it seems to us, it gets so much traction. There's so many hits that have come out of that, that have turned into record contracts or made a lot of people a lot of money in the last short term, 2 years, not even 2 years. And so I think what I'm going to do, and I've said this in Zoom calls before, but I think I'm going to start focusing on making things specifically for that platform and just doing 30-second edits and posting it and kind of aiming my target for my name, catering it just to that platform and see what happens. Because I have the ability to I'm starting to observe from afar, and I've noticed trends with how some of those viral edits are composed is the best way for me to put it. So, I'm okay, this one went viral. It's got 300 million plays in the last year. Or this one's hot now. It's got 3 million plays in 2 days. It does this, then it does this, blah, blah, blah. Why are people picking this like there's a dance attached to it. Like what?
Yeah.
What
I think the whole thing is your music just has to be poppable and lockable. I think if you can do that, then I think you're pretty good.
Yeah, and it needs to have. I feel like, and I'm probably giving away sauce, but for me, it's like there always seems to be like in a 30-second time that you're limited to, or I think it's 15 or 30, but there's always a moment that happens, like, which makes it hard for these songs to get big on TikTok. Like when you go to younger or events where these kids want stuff, they only know 15 seconds of the record, but like for us to play them as DJs, like they're over it as soon as that part happens. Like it's so ridiculous. Like
you got to make a quick hitter just to get the chorus in and out.
But yeah, maybe the future of DJs is just 15-second tracks. You're just always mixing.
Oh my
Never
God.
Stop mixing.
I just want to like bang my head off the microphone. When I do that. So, like I did a 16-year-old birthday party this year, actually, at one point. I don't remember what month it was, but it was insane. Like I never want to do one of those ever again. I was like
manic energy you can't keep up with, I don't think.
They were like, yo, you got this? You got this? They're like cell phone. And I was like, what? Like, what is this stuff?
90% of them are the tracks that you've never heard of before and you won't have in your library.
It was a lot of YouTube rappers that I've never heard of that were like.
Actually, I wanted to bring that up.
That's where my kid finds everything. He's 14 and that's where he finds everything. Instagram, YouTube, and
I'm like in the industry. TikTok. For me to not ever even hear of the record, like, or the rapper, like, I'm like, wow, like I felt super old. I was like, I just don't want to do these anytime soon because it makes me feel really old. And I don't feel like I'm that. Well,
I think it's one thing that I've sort of observed with this, because like, I mean, I'm not in the industry anymore. I mean, I used to tour manage bands and stuff like that, but so I've been in and around music my whole life. And what I found is I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be a rapper these days, because the rate at which songs are consumed and then discarded, it goes so fast that I don't know how anybody produces anything of real merit. I mean, there's just so much out there now that I don't even know how you could hope to keep up.
Well, and just listening to it, you can tell it's not of real merit. Half of it's garbage. So
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. They throw out so much, that a few things stick here and there, but I mean, they got to have another single, by Tuesday. Otherwise, they're out. Yeah. They're not going to be the next one. And I mean, at first, I think it was good because I think it sort of allowed people who might not be heard to rise up through the ranks and maybe, find some notoriety or find some fame for these people who are trying to do that. But now when I look at it, I go, okay, well, now they're all the same. There's no standout anybody. You've just got 1,000 artists all competing for, this 15 seconds of TikTok time or whatever it is. And as a result, you're stuck with, kind of this, I don't know, okay stuff, with an occasional decent beat or an occasional cool lyric or an occasional whatever. But for the most part, you're not getting the anticipation of the album dropping or any of that other stuff. These guys just traffic in singles, and it's the weirdest thing.
No, you can see like there's some artists that are still coming out of like the same systems like that the other ones aren't, like like Old Town Road, like that. Mm-hmm. You see what happened to Lil Nas X, like that popped off organically, like from like the TikTok, like YouTube platforms. And then you've seen he's been putting out stuff after he got signed major, but I mean he's made so much money, like that. I saw that just went 15 times platinum this week, that song. And that wasn't that long ago. Yeah. It's like that feels like it could be like, all right, I'm over it, like, but then I look at other people like Dua Lipa, who has come and I felt like has done everything like organically, but from the standard playbook of like record label, like she's following that playbook, and it's working for her too. Like, she's tapped into a feel good, like that Bruno Mars, like taking us back to a happier time, which, I don't think that anyone would disagree. Like any music that kind of like brightens your day right now is welcome. So, I think she's doing a great job too, but I don't know like what the sustainability looks like for some of these artists that pop off. If your goal is just to pop off and get signed, then that's fine. And I think you can do that. And it does level the playing field with everybody. Like I could put out a song tomorrow and if the internet decides to run with it, I might be famous tomorrow, which is great for anybody.
Maybe that's
you're not
just
restricted.
And maybe that's just the modern equivalent of the one hit wonder. It used to be the guy in the 70s that got the radio hit, and then everybody went and bought the single and that kind of thing. And that's how it was done back then. And now maybe it's done this way, but it's definitely different. And it is interesting to sort of observe those trends.
Have you done any originals? Do you do any original work, or is it mostly
that's
remixes?
kind of my next step, man, is like doing that. I'm starting to do some stuff for some artists. And because of the connects I make, I feel like, I've made, past tense. I feel like I'm very picky. So if I do put something out that is going to be original, like it should be soon, I want it to be like, I know that I'm at least going to have the ear of like some people that matter, because of like, I built up enough of a name with them with my remixes that like they would at least give it a shot, like to at least listen to it, and that's kind of all you can ask for. Like you can't tell someone like, and I don't like people telling me like, this shit's going to be dope. Like, I'm like, and I don't want to set that expectation up for anyone else. Like when I put something out that I did, like I want to be like, here, and just let it go, like, and if DJs, I think DJs, because of the community I'm in, like will help it a lot. If I don't think that it blows me away and I make it, like I'm probably not going to put it out, like that's just the reality of it. So that'll be soon. I'm going to put something out soon-ish, like within the next year. But I want it to be good. I'm super picky about everything music related. So like just on making edits, I'm picky. So I know that if it comes to that, it's going to be like, oh, that snare needs to sound just right. Like I'm going to pick it apart. So.
Well, that's great. Well, drop it before you come out here this summer, because if you're a superstar by then, I want to ride some coattails. Or minimally, I'll let you pay for the drinks.
So. I'll be like, oh, Posty invited us to play beer pong.
I hear he's got a dope bunker up at his place here. We got to go check it out. So,
Austin. Austin, you're so funny.
Well, cool. So, hey, man, we're starting to get to the end of this thing. Do you want to take just a quick minute and let people know where they can find out more about you, learn more about the music you're producing, maybe book you if they're looking to get in touch?
Yeah, you can find all the information on www.djscooter.net. You could find me on Instagram at DJ Scooter, and then my SoundCloud is, I don't know, I think it's DJ Scooter Remix. The only reason I say that is, again, because my last one was taken down.
We got to beef up those numbers.
You might want to check again, because mine was taken down as well, and they wouldn't let me use that username again. And I just jumped on recently.
I had to change. Yeah,
they allowed me to get it going. I was able to get my old one back.
Can you change your username on SoundCloud?
I don't know. It'd be worth checking out. So yeah, I was just shocked I was able to get my old username back, because they had pulled that whole thing down.
Well, you know what? Let me just look at SoundCloud right now and you can edit this.
Well, cool. Well, while he's doing that, I'm going to give a couple shameless plugs for us. Please feel free. We're trying to really build up the community here in 2021 over at the Eggs Podcast. Feel free to shoot us questions, comments, concerns, guest suggestions, whatever you've got. It's info@eggscast.com. You can also connect with the show at eggscast.com. We have a contact form there where you can ask questions, things like that. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. It's growing like crazy. We're publishing a lot of content there. This show and every other show in recent memory has been posted there. And we encourage you to go take a listen, like, subscribe. And what's the thing? You're supposed to ding the bell or check the bell.
Yeah, hit the bell, something like that.
Do that too while you're there.
Yeah, it's soundcloud.com/Scooter Remix. SCOOTERREMIX.
And if you're a DJ, go check out Direct Music Service. They're legit. Worth it.
Yeah, and I actually have people on Direct Music Service that are Zumba instructors, Pilates, cyclist instructors. Like, we have a lot of people that subscribe in the industry from those communities too, because they need content for their classes, and a lot of instructors sculpt that stuff from scratch, and they have a certain way they would like to run their classes. So they're always looking for cool remixes.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Jess King over at Peloton. Tell her she needs to start taking a look.
Yeah, Peloton, holler at me. Let's do something.
Well, cool, man. Well, thank you so much for your time today, man. This has been great getting to know you and learn about your career, all that good stuff. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. Hope everything out your way, frees up a little bit and everybody stays safe. That's always, the name of the game. And, hopefully we can see each other in person soon.
Yeah. Absolutely. Sounds rocking. Well, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate you. Mike, any parting shots?
No, just thanks for making time for us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking me to be on. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Cool. With that, then thanks to everybody who tunes in this week and every week, and we'll see you guys next time.